The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
You're listening to the Alldus podcast ServiceNow series. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Chad Sheridan. Chad is the Chief Innovation Officer at NetImpact Strategies. Chad, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me, JP.
Delighted to have you. So lots to cover. Let's jump straight in. Let's start with yourself, please, as we do with all of our guests. Could you give us an overview of your background in technology and a quick summary of your journey from where you started, some of the standout roles you've held along the way, and what's led you to where you are today as the Chief Innovation Officer for NetImpact Strategies?
Absolutely. So I started my life not in technology, started my life as a lowly nuclear engineer, designing and building radiological shielding for Navy ships. And somehow along the way, and you'll hear this theme repeated, a hallway conversation got me into the wild world of aircraft carrier design and construction. I found myself at a very young age responsible for the program management around the design of a new propulsion plant for the newest generation of aircraft carriers for the United States. And I learned so much in that role, loved what I was doing, loved shipbuilding, still love it. I have so many different stories of things I've learned and things I got to be a part of. And my baby in that, or my babies in that, end up being 100,000-ton aircraft carriers, the USS George H.W. Bush and the USS Gerald R. Ford are my 200,000-ton babies. And then my journey into what I do today, more in the information technology field, was another hallway conversation. Our CIO at the time, where I was working in the government, said, hey, we're starting up a new activity. It's not been done before. We're combining different roles and designing systems and solutions and software to work for nuclear propulsion plant operators. You want to come join me? I said, sure. I think my advice, I'll take a brief aside here. My advice to anyone in their career is when someone asks you to come work for them and the job sounds interesting and you respect them, even if you don't know everything about what you're about to go do, the answer has got to be yes. Take that leap, take that growth mindset and run forward. And it's enabled my success throughout the career. I found myself jumping into the world of software and technology on ships, really driving innovation and rapid change. We used to have a pirate flag sitting up in our office because we were the heretics of my organization saying, hey, all technical manuals need to be electronic. We need to use software to improve how people operate and take logs instead of writing things on paper. And we were definitely breaking some eggs as we were doing that, but doing so in a manner that made sure we could maintain the safety and integrity of what people did. And I took that experience and evidently was successful enough that I became a deputy chief information officer. And being the opinionated engineer that I am, said, hey, I'd like to run a shop myself. And so went looking and found myself changing agencies while still working for the government. Became a CIO at one of the agencies at the Department of Agriculture, where I experienced an incredible culture shock, going from the world of defense and Navy to the world of U.S. agriculture. While I grew up on a farm or around a farm, I was not prepared for the difference in how people operated between nuclear engineering and nuclear propulsion plants and supporting the federal crop insurance program, but ended up being very successful there. Loved what I did, loved supporting the farmers, the ranchers around the world or around the U.S. and supporting and providing them the essential safety net. Lo and behold, about 6 or so years into that, we had a new Secretary of Agriculture who decided that we wanted to combine IT staffs across multiple organizations. And I found myself what did I call it? I said I got fired from being a CIO and ended up with 10 times the amount of work supporting the development and operations for now almost $750 million a year spend, even though I no longer had the title. So the running joke was I'm the ex-CIO around here. Loved what I did, got to work on some signature programs supporting farmers and ranchers throughout the U.S. Farmers.gov was the name of our program. We also did a lot of work supporting the H-2A visa program and finding effective ways for legal immigrants to support the necessary work on American farms. And that work was tremendously valuable. And I got a chance to work with a lot of different enterprise software tools, including ServiceNow, and had the great fortune of being able to start up our combined ServiceNow effort at my USDA mission area and really set the stage for this single enterprise service approach to supporting the 23,000 folks that worked for our mission area, all using ServiceNow. Around 2020, or towards the end of 2019, I had a friend approach me, and my job at USDA was a lot of fun, but it was also painful, as I was the lightning rod for change. And I don't know how lightning rods stay afloat. You get hit with lots of strikes. And a friend of mine said, what else do you want to do in government? I've always been somebody that likes to deliver, likes to drive innovation, was never looking for more titles. And he said, you've been able, through good fortune and through your success, to work on some signature programs. What else do you want to do in government? Why not try your hand in industry? In my eyes. And so I went on the hunt looking for the kind of company that fit my values of driving innovation, of driving repeatable, sustainable solutions for government customers. And I knew the owner here at NetImpact Strategies, and then sat down and interviewed and found that this place really matched my values, gave me the space to create with some great people and some strong practices. And now 5 years in, evidently I made the right decision because I feel like I've found a place that is home.
Thank you for that, Chad. Super interesting background. I'm sure we could spend the rest of this podcast just talking about the bits of work that you've been involved in. But to keep it moving, you've segued nicely into the evolutionary career and subsequently what led you to NetImpact Strategy. So I want to talk in detail about your role and responsibilities, but let's start just by setting the stage. Tell us about NetImpact Strategies, who you are, what you do, mission of the business.
Sure. So NetImpact Strategies is a digital transformation solutions provider for mostly federal government customers in the United States. We've been around about 15 plus years, really started in the world of strategic consulting, and about maybe 5, 6 years into the company's run, got into technology first with ServiceNow around 2014. So been around the ecosystem quite a long time. That was the start of our transition into more technical solutions into the world of digital transformation. And we embraced it wholeheartedly. And in fact, over the last 3 years, our company has gone from one that was more in the world of strategic consulting to one that's really driving forth of repeatable technical solutions to meet the customers where their needs, to bring them repeatable, sustainable solutions to drive their needs. But I think one of the things that makes us a little bit unique is we've still got those consulting chops with us so that we're able to not only guide the technical transition of our customers, but also to support them in the softer skills around effective design, user-centered design, and organizational change that are absolutely key to effective modernization and transition, especially as technology changes ever so fast.
So your title, Chief Innovation Officer, it covers a broad range of responsibilities, which for the purpose of this conversation, I find quite interesting because you're going into customer conversations, looking at a holistic problem and then bringing forth the recommendation based on all of the services that NetImpact Strategies provide. Talk to us a little bit about the role and the responsibilities, and help us visualize the ServiceNow component. And then maybe then we can talk about some recent examples of where you've implemented some ServiceNow projects.
Yeah, so I think it's a matter of how we envision our solutions. And part of that over the last 3 years, we ventured into the product space on top of enterprise software platforms like ServiceNow, building not just repeatable ways of implementing the product, but then investing our own capital into independent software built on top of the platform to extend and to drive even more efficiencies and effectiveness in areas where the platform, where ServiceNow is not yet invested. So by looking at what a customer needs, it's really understanding their mission, their context of systems, their context of culture, and what are the kinds of things that can enable them to more effectively deliver those solutions quicker, faster, and more with more effective results. And why ServiceNow really scratches the itches in that space is there are a lot of different processes where our primary customers in the federal government have built bespoke solutions. I think every customer, whether they're in the government or even commercially, has this feeling of eternal uniqueness. And what enterprise software platforms bring is there are a lot of things that everybody does that are ubiquitous. Right? We all have IT systems. We all have service management needs. We all have assets we need to manage. We all have HR and human resources. We all have customer relations that we've got to deal with. And so an enterprise software platform such as ServiceNow allows for us to take advantage of the innovation that's happened commercially with a platform that doesn't lock you into one way of doing business. So it's the best of both worlds. I can take advantage of the innovation that's core built into the product with enough flexibility to innovate around those things that matter for me and that are unique to my mission. And then when you top that off with an application engine that exists within the core of the platform and these core products, now I've got the ability to add that uniqueness even outside of some of the core capabilities in the IT space or in the HR space. And so it makes for a very robust platform that I can build and innovate. And I don't necessarily have to live and create a legacy of thousands and millions of lines of code that I've got to go deal with and manage over time.
Yeah, very good point. I want to share some recent examples that you and the team have had, maybe some recent projects that you feel demonstrate the great work that NetImpact Strategies are doing within the ServiceNow space. I know you might not be able to share the exact details of the end customer given some of your work within the public sector, but are there any recent stories where you can take us through client customer problem, what they need, how ServiceNow is the right fit, and then the implementation supported by NetImpact Strategies?
One really comes to mind. We had a customer that was going out to the market looking for a strategic management solution, really to manage their strategic initiatives and track them and execute them across their portfolio. And this has been a space that has been dominated by some of the larger financial platforms because a lot of the strategic work, especially in the federal government, is headquartered in the chief financial officer space. And so we looked at the problem of what they were trying to solve and recognized that there was a platform within ServiceNow and strategic portfolio management that traditionally has been used mostly around project management, but over the last probably 2+ years has really expanded in scope to be able to manage the top end from strategy down to execution of strategy and then into the nitty-gritty of implementing projects. And so we looked at this solution, and one of my architects and I crafted a model for building out their strategic portfolio, both in planning and execution, that would enable them to, in essence, sunset some legacy systems within a year. And it was, to my knowledge, in the public sector, was one of the first forays for ServiceNow into that space that had been dominated by the legacy financial system players that typically flow from general ledger accounting systems and ERP systems. Those systems have tended to have add-on capabilities to build out the strategic planning. And we thought ServiceNow was a better fit, a lower cost fit, and we could get to value faster. And our hypothesis was proven correct. The best part about that one is part of the proposal process was to build a video of our solution, which was almost entirely my architect building the solution. And I ended up doing the voiceover for the video. And it was, as I was doing the plan, just seeing, even before we started with the customer, the innovation our team was able to bring to bear to think about ServiceNow in a different light.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
Switching direction slightly, talk to us about the team that are working on ServiceNow projects for your large customer portfolio. Give us some insight into the org structure, from the backgrounds, the size of the team, and the culture day to day. Help us look behind the scenes.
Yeah, so we've grown. We've had the good fortune of winning enough work that we've grown our practice. I think when I got here, we were in the 50 to 60 range. Now we're upwards of over 120 ServiceNow folks supporting 8 or 9 different programs, and ranging from chief master or certified master architects, certified technical architects, all the way down to folks that we brought in through our ServiceNow incubation program, where they knew nothing at the start of the program. 4 months later, they're triple certified and off to their first implementation gig. So our program is diverse across multiple different sets of customers in the federal space, from DoD to federal civilian to financial regulatory to the civilian health space within government. So we've got a diverse array of customers and missions we're supporting, but we've got a great cohesion. Really, I get to play cheerleader for that group and executive sponsor, but I've got my architects and program managers who really are the glue behind bringing this together. And I'd say a couple of things about how we do business is, I think the team has naturally always believed in repeatability of solutions, so that any good idea that's been implemented by one team is shareable across multiple teams. That's really easy to do when you're small, but when you start to get over 100 people executing, right, they don't have as many opportunities to interact with each other. We've got folks working remotely for the most part now after COVID. And you got to put a little bit of energy into this to maintain that naturally occurring sharing and reuse. And so we built this overall approach called Platform First, where we capture and reuse, whether it's artifacts, templates, code, update sets, architectures, blueprints, you name it. We capture that in a repository. We curate that. We train on it. We make available that knowledge that we're capturing from different programs. And then the latest instantiation of that is we've created what we call our ServiceNow end-to-end, where we sit down for 3 days and train our folks on what I loosely call the NetImpact way of doing business. That's not just telling them and showing them, but giving them the tools that they can use and reuse. And then double that with our products. We now got 9 different products in the ServiceNow store that represent where we've invested heavily in a end-to-end product capability in addition to our ways of working. So it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort to herd the cats and coordinate, but it really creates, there's one thing to say that you use repeatable solutions, another thing to actually create, build, curate, and use them as a core part of how we work.
Chad, moving on to the road ahead, you talked about the evolution of the business and the growth, even in the time that you've been there, the investment in headcount due to the increased demand. When you look at the near-term roadmap, particularly the next year, What are you excited about? What are you hoping to accomplish? What are you looking forward to work on with you and your team in the context of the ServiceNow department?
I'll answer this in two parts. Part one is the core power of the platform. It touches end-to-end business functions that are ubiquitous both across the commercial environment and our federal customer environment. So I see the power of and and I see the power of combining solutions across the different product suites. We've had the good fortune of a few programs where we've been able to take capabilities that exist on the platform and stitch them together into a larger enterprise solution. I love those opportunities. I love that from an individual program perspective. I love it from a model for then creating that enterprise service management model where we can run an entirety or at least a good chunk of an agency's business on a single platform with shared data, with the ability to connect the dots between disparate processes that typically have grown up in their own silos. That to me has always been an exciting part of the platform. And we've had the good fortune to create some of those solutions. And frankly, when I'm hunting, I'm looking for those opportunities because they're not your traditional just come in and fix an ITSM process. It's still like that, but I love the possibility for extending that to a larger portion of an agency's business. The second piece that I'm excited about, and I know there's way too much hype around generative AI, but I do think there is great potential there for a couple of reasons. One, there's already strong capabilities on the platform to take advantage of the data that's there from a machine learning standpoint, from an event management standpoint, and improve the services that can be delivered because I've got the data to run my models on. But those models have always required an inordinate amount of data, and bridging that gap takes lots of human eyeballs. And so what generative AI brings to the table for me is the chance to take those LLM-based models and generative AI and start to short circuit some of that and bring the innovation that we know works from a machine learning and AI standpoint and really jumpstart it to where my agents can start to create and recommend solutions. I'm still going to have humans in the loop, but now I'm able to get to a potential recommendation on how I can better serve my customers on the platform faster and maybe in more fields than I would have been able to do when I'm limited by, hey, I got to have 10,000 data points to run an ML model. To me, the opportunity there is I can start to bring to bear the power of artificial intelligence in spaces I was not able to do in the past. So that means I can speed the innovation available on the platform in a way that I didn't have the chance to do even 6 months ago.
Super exciting. And I think particularly within the additional constraints that exist within the public sector, higher scrutiny on security, being the platform of choice where it's having broader adoption gives opportunity for these organizations to accelerate their AI strategy, which starts with getting the foundation level set. Final group of questions for me, bringing it all the way back to firstly, what drew you to NetImpact Strategies and how that then translates into your leadership when looking for more talent. So it's twofold, really. What was it about NetImpact Strategies that drew you to the business over some of the other organizations who were trying to court your experience? And then how does that translate to what you tell other people about NetImpact Strategies when you're speaking to candidates who you think would be a good addition to the team?
I think everybody talks about their values. And I think what makes us different, what I've seen over the last 5 years has been watching the leadership live the values, right? This idea of doing the right thing, even if it's not immediately advantageous to us, that we're customer oriented, that we're oriented towards their mission. As an ex-customer myself, in this environment, the mission is everything. And so my success when I was in government was all about being an IT leader that understood the mission and I could put that first and understand it. So that living breathing every day our values are front and center by how people operate, meaning we take care of our people, we take care of our community, and we're always focused on delivering value for our customer in the right way. I see that in things like contracts go away. And so what do we do when we're losing a contract with the people that live on board? So I've watched our team fight very diligently at the executive level to make sure that we've got a landing place for people when contracts expire, that we're looking to their growth and not just our corporate interest. I think the other thing is that has been incredible since I've gotten here is this idea of a growth mindset. This idea that no matter what's happening in the world and right now in government, there's a lot of churn going on, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear in some cases in our customers and even our folks. And I look at it as we've had a consistent growth mindset, this idea that no matter what happens, you can do better, you can grow yourself and your career. And that really comes down to taking advantage of the learning that's available, taking advantage and pushing people to learn and grow. Our Earn That Cert program is alive and well, and everybody in the company is encouraged to get at least 2 of our in-house trained certs. In the ServiceNow environment, the green light is pretty lit for anybody who wants to push themselves and continue getting certified. That mindset really is attractive because I think anybody who's in an environment of delivering technological solutions wants to be good at their craft. And part of that is learning more, doing more. That is encouraged, whether it's learning and getting more certs or being a part of building our products, testing our products, or that mobility to move between customers as we continue to grow our business.
Chad, thank you so much, my friend. I'm delighted that we finally got to make this happen. I know we were talking about it for a while
Absolutely,
now,
JP.
and speaking about it at SCO, we were coming up with some topics. I knew this would be a good one, and it didn't disappoint. So appreciate the insight into your journey, your role at NetImpact Strategies, and the tremendous success that you've been having within the ServiceNow space. And sounds like there's going to be more coming with the growth mindset, as you said. In your own career journey, look, nothing great happens unless you step outside your comfort zone and push yourself, and it's clear that's ringing true now with what you're doing with NetImpact Strategies. So we're excited to see what you guys can continue to accomplish, and look forward to having you back on the show again in the near future to hear about all the continued success. So thank you so much.
Thank you, JP. Enjoyed talking with you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.